Good evening from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. Tonight, very special guest, Janet Phelan, with added information on the FISA court. Now, I heard a very interesting piece of information only moments ago, and that was the president is to veto FISA. Now, if that happens, that will be just incredible. But you can call into the show live and ask a question and get involved at 800-313-9443. Or you can listen at 605-313-0163. Okay, Janet, what have you got for us?
Well, I got some very interesting news, which is probably not going to please a lot of your listeners, but this is stuff that we absolutely have to know about. I was on your show prior talking about the progress of this Patriot Act reauthorization FISA bill as it was moving. It was first approved by the House. It went to the Senate. And then there was a hiatus, I guess, because of the coronavirus. And so for 2 months, the bill was actually, it had basically expired, because even though it had to have been approved, it had to have been approved by both houses and then go to the president in order to become a law. And so when it was only approved by the House, then it actually expired. So for 2 months, we did not have the authorizations in place that would that are so hotly contested, including, of course, the business records collection, the roving wiretaps, and this very problematic lone wolf provision, which does appear to be what may be used to surveil so many American citizens. So for 2 months, we were actually without these laws. So before I go into some of the more even really disturbing stuff, I didn't notice any difference in my situation. I didn't notice any less surveillance. I didn't notice fewer people coming into my house when I wasn't here. I mean, I've got a lot of sort of extreme issues going on in terms of surveillance, and nothing changed during those 2 months for me. And when I talk to other people who are experiencing similar sorts of watch listing, they tell me that nothing changed for them either. So it does raise some questions as to, on a couple of different perspectives. Are these Patriot Act, the first question is, are these Patriot Act reauthorizations, which had expired and were not in effect for those 2 months, are those actually the authorities that they are using to surveil and harass U.S. citizens? That's a question. Okay, according to some of the research, here we go, that others have done. I'm going to be quoting off of the Electronic Freedom Foundation? There are numerous other authorities besides those within this Patriot Act reauthorization. Here, I'm going to read a few of them here. There are pen registers, which allow the government to collect dialing, routing, addressing, or signaling information, including telephone numbers. There are pre-Patriot Act business records provisions. There is an ECPA, what they call a D order, which says that the government can get a court order for information from ISPs or other communication providers. Um, there are grand jury subpoenas. There are national security letters. There are administrative subpoenas, and then separately, there's apparently something called FISA warrants, which were put into place back around 1978. So, according to James Comey, the former FBI director, um, he was pushing. Comey was pushing for the reauthorization of these authorities, but he did mention that, well, if we don't get them, we still got other things in our toolbox. Okay, so that's one level of concern. Um, but there's something else that struck me as I was looking over the publications that are now proliferating about this, what's happening now with this reauthorization bill. Because as we have seen, after it did go to the Senate, it was passed in the Senate with an amendment. This is the Lee-Leahy Amendment, which provided some further provisions. There were some other provisions that would guarantee a little more protection for U.S. citizens. And basically, there was a provision in this amendment that was passed in the Senate that would mandate guaranteed accuracy of applications for FISA warrants. And there was another that would require the FBI to share all relevant information that the U.S. government has about certain kinds of targets for these surveillances with an amicus curiae. Now, according to what I'm reading here in Politico, the reason that suddenly the Trump administration, as well as the Attorney General Barr, are threatening to veto the bill if it passes is because of this amendment. It's too stringent. It gives us too much protection. Now, I'm going to quote here from this is an article in Politico that came out. Yeah.
Janet, I just had a question now. If they, in fact, the president vetoes it, can it go back to the House again and be reconstructed and then go to the Senate and then to the president once again?
If it's being vetoed because it protects us too much, which appears to be what's going on, then the bill can simply be reconfigured. It can be represented without the amendment, which protects us, and they can try again. All right. I want to read here a little bit, just very briefly, from this Politico article that came out today that is entitled "Trump Officials Detail Opposition to Federal Surveillance Bill." And they're quoting here John Demers, who's the head of the Justice Department's National Security Division. And he's telling here, Demers said stricter requirements about the accuracy of FISA applications would be onerous. In other words, they want to play hard and fast. Okay, they don't want to be hampered by requirements for accuracy.
Okay. What about the time that it was actually a dead bill?
Yeah.
Can you explain what happens to a dead bill like that? It was dead for 2 months?
Well, supposedly, because this bill was to reauthorize certain provisions that gave the FBI and some of those other alphabet soup agencies the right to watch us. Um, According to what happened was those provisions expired. They were not law. You could no longer do the things. The government could no longer do the things to watch and surveil people that were contained in that Section 215. They couldn't do it. So for 2 months, if these were indeed the authorities, the legal authorities that are being used to target and watch list people, then they couldn't do it for 2 months because it was
Oh,
illegal. It was no longer legal.
Lori from the chat just sent that out of 1,484 regular vetoes since 1789, only 7.1%, or 106, have been overridden.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not even so much a question of overriding the veto, okay? It's really, I'm not even sure. I don't know where that's coming from. I don't know. I don't see the source. I'm not on the chat. I can't see that. But if the bill is only being threatened to be vetoed because it's too stringent in its demands for accuracy, then all that really has to be done is that amendment, which was the Lee-Leahy amendment, needs to be removed, and the bill can be represented. Okay, now we've got a couple different things going on here because the bill was dead. Those authorities had expired for 2 months. My life wasn't any better, in terms of my concerns about what has happened since I've gotten a watch list. Nothing changed. Okay, so I got a couple questions here. Are these the authorities that are actually being used to surveil and watch list American citizens? And, yes or no. And if the answer is no, then what are the legal authorities that are being used? Earlier in the show, I'd read off a list from the Electronic Freedom Foundation of other legal isms that they're using to conduct their national security investigations. So are those the provisions we should be looking at? So does it really matter that much if these current, does it matter to us, people who are watch listed, American citizens who are watch listed? Does it matter if they actually pass this or not? Will it make a difference in our lives? That's the question.
Okay, that's really hard to say. I have a question.
Sure.
If this is vetoed by the president, is there a chance that it's being vetoed for a good reason?
Well,
Like he doesn't like it?
this is what concerns me. This Politico article indicates that it's being vetoed because the Lee-Leahy amendment is too stringent in the enhanced protections of American citizens. I'm going to read another sentence or so here, quoted from Politico.com, from this FBI honcho, John Demers, that says it would give the amicus access to all kinds of information in the FBI files and the court files that we believe would put at risk our productive relationships with foreign partners and their willingness to share information with us. this is, the amicus is the, another level of the oversight that that the Lee-Leahy Amendment, which was passed by the Senate, mandated. So Demers goes on to say, there is no provision, unlike in the current FISA law, that would allow us to withhold from the amicus information on national security grounds. So you can imagine a foreign partner who would otherwise be sharing information with us saying, as they always say, what are the protections if this information is not going to get to someone that we don't want it to? So they're saying essentially that bringing in a level of oversight through the amicus curiae, which is friend of the court, that would be a lawyer who's appointed to make sure that the law is being obeyed and that the regulations are being adhered to. Well, that would just become a pain in the butt for the FBI. And I'm going to read this again. Demers said stricter requirements about the accuracy of FISA applications would be onerous. So, as we know, attorney, go ahead.
Okay, now I'm curious, how can something that happened, it was devastating, but it happened in 2001. How can we hold a bill over the Constitution of the United States and have it work?
Well, I think it's certainly time to raise that question very loudly.
Yes, I tell everyone all the time that I am all about the Constitution. And I keep telling everyone that they better get out there and start protesting, targets or not targets, to get things shot down. The people need to be heard again. And the problem is, no one cares. Am I correct?
I don't think no one cares. I think a lot of Americans are have other concerns. Making the mortgage payment, feeding their family, that kind of thing. And now with the coronavirus, I think people are just I think they're in a tizzy about what's happening. I think a lot of people do not understand what is happening. What the
Janet,
actual effect? Yeah.
We're coming up on a commercial here shortly. I just wanted to make you aware of that. This is certainly a topic that needed to be explored. And there it is.
As a listener of RBN, you're surely concerned about being informed and being ready for whatever may come. Please consider the following questionnaire as a soul-jarring wake-up call. If you answer no to more than 2 of these following questions, you probably aren't going to make it through any major disruption in our country. The questions were compiled by people that have been there. Are you really ready? Do you own your own firearm for the primary defense and protection of you and your loved ones? Have you ever been professionally trained to stand against life-threatening behavior? Have you ever practiced enough to fire 500 rounds during a 2 to 4 day time frame, day and night? Can you load, unload, fire, and clear a jam in total darkness? Have all the adults in your household been professionally trained? Are you, life and death, comfortable with your abilities with pistol, revolver, shotgun, and rifle? Are you aware that everything that you do to prepare for an emergency is a waste of time, money, and energy? if you haven't honed your abilities to their highest level to protect and keep what you have? Do you have the repair parts that will most likely be needed for each of your firearm, and do you have the ability to install those parts? Could you completely clean every firearm you own? Are you aware that your body won't go where your mind hasn't been? In other words, without proper training, followed by regular practice, you probably will not win a gunfight. Well, how did you measure up? Take the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to start correcting your deficiencies by receiving your Commander Lifetime Membership with Front Sight Firearms Training Facility. A one-time donation to RBN for $500 will give you a Commander Lifetime Membership at Front Sight as a tremendously huge thank you bonus. See details on RBN's webpage to make it happen. The clock is ticking. You had better be ready before it happens.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll-free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Good evening, once again from Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome back. My name is Frank Allen. Tonight, special guest Janet Phelan and I are discussing the FISA court and a presidential veto. Okay, Janet, we have Richard from North Carolina. He is very constitutional as well and would like to make comment or ask you a question.
Hi, Richard.
Hi, Jenny. How are you tonight? Hi, Frank, guys, at RBN. This is a very definitely explorable thing that we're talking about right now. There's so much confusion. Janet said it right when she said it started around 1978. Well, FISA court was put in place in 1978, but there was a little other thing that was put in place also at the same time, and it was called 702. We recently had Congressman Ted Poe that came forward and made a video himself on the floor of Congress about 702. And what he explained in this video about 702, number one, is it's an amendment. It's not a bill. It's not an act. And that's where bills and acts come from, is from the actual amendment that has been put in place. Now, the Patriot Act, all these other things, they were revised, Freedom Act, whatever they want to call it. Things were added, and even the most recent thing with the bills that they were trying to reinstate, reauthorize all of this stuff. Well, it wasn't made clear. It's still not clear as to whether those authorization or reauthorization was of the whole bill or just of pieces and parts of the bill, and actually the Patriot Act itself, but nothing about 702. Mr. Poe, Congressman Poe, did come forward and told the American public in this video, here is your problem. If this is not taken away, then it's not going to change. It's an amendment. It's more purposeful than the acts or the bills that can be written or rewritten or added to or changed or reworded or cloaked or smoke and mirror thing all through the rest of our history. So he made the effort to let the American people know there is no FISA without 702, and there is no 702 without FISA. So this is what he was saying. These bills, I for one did notice when everything shut down, is my targeting going to stop? And as everyone else, it didn't. In fact, I think mine got worse and some others too. But it had nothing to do with it. It had no effect on what was going on. And that told me a great big answer that, the dead bill, sitting there, everything should have shut down. I even contemplated that the authorities might be easier for them to track some of this stuff or trace some of this stuff for these people while everything's on lockdown, while everybody's being still. But none of that was going on either. It just simply it didn't change. So the reauthorization of what they were adding to the bill either was added or wasn't added, but it didn't change the bill. It didn't change what was going on before the reauthorization, so it could not have been a reauthorization of the whole bill. And then recently, the impeachment of President Trump stopped. That was all over the news. No more impeachment. That's over. It's finished. Well, during the process of impeachment of a president, which happened also to Richard Nixon back in the day, they weren't using it to get rid of Richard Nixon. They weren't actually trying to get rid of Donald Trump. What they were doing and can legally do during an impeachment, they can get their hands on all the documents they want to get their hands on and tie them to whatever they want to tie them to that's going on in the world. And during that impeachment, those documents are, not known to the public, and chances are
Richard,
the public will never know.
It's the bottom of the hour, and we're going to station identification. Thank you for listening.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
What would you say if I told you we have a new tool that will increase production and lower maintenance costs for your meat processing company? And it would pay for itself in just 6 weeks.
When pigs fly!
The new Ease Off Model Easy 4 replaces old spring-style carcass droppers and is faster, safer, and more reliable. The Ease Off lowers or lifts 1,000 pounds to or from your rail automatically using our remote control.
Sounds expensive. Can I afford it?
Can you afford not to try the Ease Off? It installs fast with just 3 bolts in place of your current dropper. The effortless operation will reduce fatigue and injuries, speed up your line, eliminate downtime, and increase profit.
How can I order my Ease Off?
Go to easeoff.com, EAZEOFF.com, and hurry, because we are offering $200 off on the new Easy 4 for a limited time. Easeoff.com. We make pigs fly. Cows, too. Ease Off LLC, Summersville, Missouri, 417-932-6419.
Extend your life with Extendovite, a 7-herb combination made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle. Each herb was chosen for their abilities to help improve irregular heartbeats, chest pain, lower cholesterol, as well as normalize blood pressure and clean and strengthen arteries, plus much, much more. Doctors have taken people off of some or all of their pills just because they believe their patients got better while taking Extendovite. Get the dependability of Extendovite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Did you know that you can be tracked and traced when you're online? With identity theft and cybercrimes on the rise, your passwords, your identity, and even your physical location can be revealed to complete strangers. Would you like to surf the internet anonymously and not have to worry about these threats? Well, now you can by visiting patriotinternet.com. For about $2 per month, patriotinternet.com will conceal your IP address and your physical location, allowing you to browse the web, send emails, and instant message anonymously. patriotinternet.com will bypass filters, block sites, and keyword blocking. You can also bypass logging by your router and your ISP. With patriotinternet.com, there is no software to install and uses 128-bit encryption for your protection. When using wireless hotspots, patriotinternet.com shields your information from identity thieves and is compatible with Windows, Mac, and Linux. Protect your identity and your freedom with anonymous internet access from patriotinternet.com. Visit patriotinternet.com today.
Good evening from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen. Tonight, special guest Janet Phelan and I discuss the FISA court and the president's offer to veto. Okay, Richard, I'm going to go over to Janet. She's got a ton of information she's trying to get out. Go ahead, Janet.
I really appreciate what Richard was stating and what he was adding here. And I'd like to, the Section 702, actually, yes, it was added as an amendment in 2008, and I'm quoting here, quote, to legalize George W. Bush's warrantless wiretapping program. It removed the requirement in place since 1978 that the government obtain a warrant from the FISA court when seeking to wiretap communications between a foreign target and an American from inside the U.S. So I'd like to throw another monkey wrench into this expanding disaster here. I'd like to propose an alternate perspective, because we're asking the question, well, if these laws expired, if they were dead, then what laws are they using in order to surveil and watch list people? And there's another answer here which is extremely disturbing, which is that there may be no law. Those of us who have been active around particular issues having to do with court proceedings have become excruciatingly aware that laws are not, protective laws are not being enforced. And this has become almost a mantra for those, for example, who are trying to cope with the kinds of abuses happening to elderly people in probate guardianships. People, well, the law says this, the law says that. But What good is a law if the law won't be enforced? And this is the problem that a lot of people are beginning to realize is another layer here. Great, because the Congress just passed a law. If the law is politically inconvenient, will it be enforced? And if laws are not being enforced, then terrible crimes will happen against people. And I'm not even sure if the kinds of abuses of this FISA system that we're seeing going on actually could be considered legal in any sense of the word. I also want to bring up that I had today was watching Rubio talk about the FISA system, and I want to say how appalled I was at what he had to say, because he was saying, well, the laws are good, the system's good. There was abuse. Okay, some people, and I think he's talking mostly about Carter Page and the Trump campaign, that there was abuse, but the laws are they're sound, they're good. Well, these sound, good laws, which Rubio is alleging were simply violated by some bad people here, are the same sound, good laws that are being used to terrorize many American citizens. So, question, I've got a lot of concerns about a lot of these senators and representatives as well, because there seems to be a willful blindness going on, and there seems to be an effort to portray things as like, okay, the Carter Page thing, what a mess, well, that was just Jim Comey, or just defer it somewhere, shut the door, and make it pretend like it just happened to one person, when this abuse is happening on a very widespread scale. And there just does not seem to be anyone in Congress who's talking about this.
I don't understand how they get away with it. I know that we were in a time of war in 2001, but this is not considered a time of war right now. I think it should be abolished, and we existed quite nicely before the Patriot Act. Okay, we have Fred from Michigan, looks like. He'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
Yes, Frank. I'm wondering if Janet has any insight into the effects of these states of emergency that have been occurring since, I think it's General Orders 100, Francis Lieber, the Lieber Code, during the Civil War, martial law rule. It seems I've heard people like Richard in North Carolina and another Richard from another state declaring the fact that under these various states of emergency, the constitutional provisions are suspended, including the Bill of Rights. And then I heard, Janet, that there is a bankruptcy status with the United States. It's a corporation. And Congressman Tropicon in '93, St. Patrick's Day, did a speech in Congress regarding that, the fact that the United States is in receivership, Chapter 11, as a bankrupt entity. And so then I recalled learning that the county sheriff has the ultimate authority to circumvent all this. The sheriff does have very real superseding authority over the feds, especially relative to intrusion into our private lives, as this obviously is targeting. So I'm wondering what Janet would say about all that.
Well, you know, I've looked at some of that, and I don't have a lot of comment. I'm not even sure that those constructs that you were discussing are actually helpful to us. And I'm trying to focus on things that are helpful. And I know there are a lot of people, particularly in the Patriot movement, who, you know, go on and on about the bankruptcies and this and that, and U.S. is a corporation. But how does that help us?
What about, Janet, what about the sheriff? What about the sheriff in his ultimate authority in the county to circumvent federal violations of our civil rights?
I don't see too many of these sheriffs acting in that capacity. I'm sensing more and more that there is a totalitarian system that is basically the moving force behind what's happening, and that the laws that are passed by Congress, some of them very good and protective laws that are then ignored. I think there's a bit of theater going on. Okay, I think, and I think, you know, I don't want to dismiss these investigators who are talking about the bankruptcy and the sheriffs and so forth, but I think that, in a sense, doing all this legal research to find the root cause isn't helping us. I think that we're being treated to a Punch and Judy show, and we're going to go down really hard, and probably not that far in the future, unless we get a grip on the fact that we don't have enforceable laws, because we don't have anybody to enforce them. Why do we have no one to enforce them? Because we're basically dealing with a totalitarian system, and people are frightened. And people who are in power, who have sheriffs, district attorneys, whatever, my sense of things is that they are obeying orders. Their orders are against the law. They know that.
Yeah.
But things happen to people in this country. It started to get really bad in the 60s with the assassinations in the 60s. But I don't think it just stopped in the 60s. I think it got worse. And
well, in fact, Janet,
yeah.
there's a professor, Amitai Etzioni, at George Washington University, and he formed what's called the Center for Communitarian Policy Studies in 1991, and he's authored numerous books. The one that I most remember is From Empire to Community, Amitai Etzioni. And it's all about this oligarchical collectivist system of these elites who see themselves as superior. They're the superior race. They're God's chosen people. And Henry Makow recently posted a treatise on the subject matter of Kabbalah and communitarianism, and how it has a stranglehold over the entire society, whether it's the legal system, the monetary system, etc., the education system. And in fact, to buttress what you just said, the previous sheriff of this county, where I'm at in Michigan, on local radio said that he defers to the prosecuting attorney and the U.S. attorney in all criminal matters. And I thought, wait a minute, this is a guy who's elected by the taxpayers, whose salary is paid by the taxpayers, admitting that he doesn't recognize us as a substantive force. So I guess that will always be the case until we organize and hold them accountable. I don't see how to proceed other than doing that. Breach of the public trust is what they're engaged in. They're violating their contract with us. It's all really coming down to contract law, and communitarianism seeks to nullify all of that. And so that's why I brought up this guy Amitai Etzioni, and he's like a big time public policy advisor to numerous presidents going back to the 70s. Mm-hmm. And he's at a major, like I said, George Washington University Center for Communitarian Policy Studies. So I think maybe that would aid us in comprehending how to proceed. And so on that basis, I'll just butt out, Frank, and let you proceed with your interview.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd like to say a couple of things based on what you were pointing out here. I think some of the policies that were instituted under J. Edgar Hoover, when he started spying on public figures, he had files on everyone in Congress, on reporters. He basically created a system where people began to realize that a shadowy, powerful figure had something on them. And this, I think, resulted in a lot of fear-based behavior. And I think that Hoover wielded the power of his files in ways that have not totally come to light. So if you translate, if you take the trajectory from what Hoover was doing to what our alphabet soup agencies, spy agencies are doing now, they're simply they've perfected it. They've got more technology. They've got more ways of spying, and as what happens in totalitarian societies, we saw it with the Stasi. We see it in China. What happens is that people become afraid, and they're afraid that something will happen to them. Whatever that something is, it's not a good thing. And so they begin almost unconsciously, well, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, modifying their behavior to make it acceptable to the man behind the curtain. And I see this in a very widespread manifestation now. So, what do we do about that? I mean, what do we do about the fact that every phone call, every email, letters are opened? I mean, and people are aware of this. So people are basically modifying their behavior so as not to get this heavy hand slammed down on them.
Yeah, that's actually a very brilliant statement right there. There's so much behind this. The amount of surveillance and the technology being used, much of which is beyond us, because it's a well-known fact that the United States government, in terms of technology, is at least 20 to 30 years, if not 40 years, ahead of what we know about. And we're just starting to see the tip of the iceberg when it comes to technology. The more we dig, the more we find. And it's one of those areas that we need to really amp up on and understand exactly how they're doing things. And I'll let you take it from there, guys.
Well, there is a piece of recent history that applies, and it's very easy to find and very easy to see. And that is when Mueller, that should be a familiar name, was doing the investigation pertaining to the report he was supposed to make to the American people. All of a sudden, he was removed when Barr vowed to the American people as well as Congress that the truth was going to come out, that he was going to make sure this report was known to the American people. And what did he do? He took the report, rewrote the report in his own words after just a day or two of looking at it, and then blocked off 4 sections of the report, refused to give it to Congress, even threatened Congress with legal action if they tried to force him to turn it loose, and said that it was a matter of national security. And at this very same time is when Congressman Poe came forward with the information of 702 and actually read out loud himself what 702 included other than surveillance, and what this type of surveillance could be included. And the lady, Miss Janet, said, even herself at the beginning of this call, well, there's people coming and going from your home. That was one of Mr. Poe's very statements, people coming and going through your things, not just surveillancing you at the grocery store or over your phone, but in many, many other ways. And that's some truth anybody can look up.
I thank you. I'm going to look for the video. Can you, if I just put in Ted Poe, would that be enough on YouTube, or should I look for it? Ted Poe 702. How should I find it?
The name Congressman Ted Poe is the title, and
Okay.
it is also the channel. So he did the video on YouTube with his name in the title and his name as the channel. So Congressman Ted Poe.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. I do want to point out that A.G. Barr was initially opposed to a veto when this bill was first hammered out by the House before it went to the Senate. Barr was crowing about it, and he was all on board, and Trump was going, I don't know, I might veto it. Well, now A.G. Barr wants to veto it, apparently because it's too stringent in its protections. I am finding this so alarming that I'm almost, I just don't know what to do. I spent today calling a number of our representatives, leaving messages about this. Laws to protect us being onerous. They just want to play fast and hard. They want to do what they're going to do. And it looks to me as if A.G. Barr is on board with this. And this understanding of what appears to be going on here needs to be conveyed. It
Janet,
needs to be conveyed to many. Yeah.
We have Lark from Texas. She is fantastic. Go ahead.
Hi, Frank. Hi, Janet.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
I haven't talked to you. I talked to you, Janet, briefly back in 2011.
I remember that. I remember, Lark.
Yeah. Now, can I get a hold of you through your website, Janet, by email?
My website got hacked to smithereens, and it could not be resuscitated. So only through email right now.
Well, okay, so you have email, right?
Yes, email and Facebook, right.
Okay, and the email is posted at your website, or just where can I find that address?
No website. There's no website.
Okay, can you leave it with Frank or the board up so I can get a hold of you?
I will certainly do that. What's up, Lark? Why?
I wanted to echo some of the remarks by Fred in Michigan. You know, Janet, I've been studying communitarian law for 16 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And,
you know,
this is the law of the European Union, which was more than 60, 70 years in the making. It's known as acquis communautaire in the French, and EU or community law, euphemistically, in English. And this is the model legal framework for the global system of communitarian governance that we're witnessing. This is a system in which people do not have rights unaccompanied by duties and responsibilities. If you or the listeners would simply begin by typing into your search engine, what is communitarianism? And secondly, what is communitarian law? And then thirdly, what is reflexive law? Like
Lark,
a knee reflex, because these reflexive.
We're coming up to the top of the hour. I would like to have you and Janet together, if you can, possibly maybe Friday, if that works for the two of you.
Well, I'm not sure about Friday. I think I'm scheduled tentatively, Frank,
okay.
But we can be in contact by email, and maybe we can pull it off. But yeah, this is important what you're talking about, Janet and Frank, and so it's useful to tie some loose ends together.
Okay. Good night.
Thank you for calling, Lark.
Yes, Lark. Thank you so much. Good night from Boston, Massachusetts. My name is Frank Allen.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
This is RBN, the Republic Broadcasting Network.